Good morning, Sobros Nation. It is early on a Saturday, 6 a.m. We are here to cover the 2022 Isle of Man TT. Stoney Keeley, the EIC at SobrosNetwork.com here. We've got the man himself, Ryan Yearwood, Outdoor Sobro on Twitter. And we've got our producer here just off the camera that is going to be researching and just providing insight throughout the duration of this broadcast. Ryan, how are you doing this morning, man?
I'm up and at 'em. I'm very excited to watch this race this morning. We are 6 hours behind their time zone, and the weather there looks beautiful. Not quite the temperature we'd like to see for the activity on track, but it is a beautiful sunny day on the Isle of Man, and doesn't look to be a cloud in the sky anywhere in the island, which from personal experience can tell you that one side of the island can be beautiful down near the coast, and up at the mountain section, clouds roll in, and it delays a lot of events for the day and the week. So it looks like it's going to be a nice day of racing.
So people tuning in, hanging out with us this morning, let's say they want to check out the race. Where can they find it if they wanted to watch along with us?
There's a streaming service, the first year ever, finally doing some video streaming of the race, the qualifying, practice sessions, everything, which today is race day 1. Isle of Man, was it IOMTTraces.com.
Very well. Producer, how are you doing this morning?
Just fantastic. Thank you very much.
Do you have having me? Did we agree on a name? Are we supposed to call you something?
Just call me Billy.
Billy. Okay.
I'm never going to remember that.
So for the noobs like myself, this is the first time I'll ever sit and watch this race. What is the Isle of Man TT?
Well, so Billy, take this one over.
Billy.
So for those that are wholly unaware, the Isle of Man is an island between Ireland and the west coast of England, which is why the weather is so subjective.
And here's their country's flag.
And that's the flag.
Oh, that is, yeah.
Here's a T-shirt with the late, great Joey Dunlop. I'm sure we'll touch upon his legacy at some point today. But the Isle of Man TT is a race. It covers 37.73 miles. It's over 200 turns. Right now it's about a 16 and a bit or 16 and a half minute lap. And there are 6 laps in a race. They race super bikes, which are fully tuned race machines. They race super stock, which is the same bikes as a super bike 1000cc, but they are as close to stock as is allowed within the rules. There are some modifications for the bikes.
Similar to what you could go to your local dealer and purchase off the showroom for.
Very well.
They have to have road tires on too, not race tires. They also race super sport, which is 600cc. They race twins, which I think this year have been bumped up in CC. I'll check that. And then they also race sidecars, which aren't your traditional looking sort of Harley Davidson with a sidecar on the side with a dog in it. It's these are fully fledged Formula One race machines.
That was my first question.
Yeah, It's really interesting race. It's been going since the early 1900s, and as you said, that the only time that they've ever broadcast it live is this year.
Since 1911, by the way.
1911.
We're 4 minutes into the broadcast, and I've got to excuse myself real quick. So if you guys can,
we had McDonald's. We had 5:30 a.m. McDonald's. So you understand, folks. You've been there.
It seems like he's been there a couple times
this morning.
Yeah. So right now, everybody's just preparing to go onto the circuit. There's been a little bit of a delay this morning. I think there's some weather up on the mountain that's delayed the start. But the footage that we're watching is they're down in Douglas, which is the capital city of the Isle of Man. The weather looks gorgeous.
Yeah, weather looks great there in front of the grandstands. They look ready to go. I think we just got a few minutes here. And action will be underway. Everybody's suiting up. Helmets are on. Still got quite a few people on track. Looks like they're pushing them out now, though.
I think it's fair to say everybody's nervous.
I would, yeah, be lying if they weren't.
Yeah.
I think we're just sitting here listening and watching to everything, and nobody can hear us, so we're good. Oh yeah, bikes rolling forward, heading towards the starting line. We're about to get underway here, folks. First race laps about to go underway at the Isle of Man TT 2022. 2 years we've missed the race due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but racing is back and better than ever. I'd say I think this is probably going to be a record turnout for the Isle.
Apologies. This is the earliest broadcast, the earliest live stream I've ever done. I didn't factor in my allergies. Usually takes me like 30 minutes to an hour to adjust and get into my rhythm. So I'm hoping that nobody saw the snot just pouring out of my nose this morning. But
I've had a few people comment, but I think it's okay.
Okay.
So the guy leading us out of the gate is a gentleman by the name of John McGuinness. He's a 23 times TT winner. When he goes across the timing line in a few seconds, this will be his 100th start at the Isle of Man TT.
And he is 50 years old.
50 years old.
50 years old. And capable of winning this prestigious event still.
So they release them one at a time.
Yep.
Every time
intervals. Yep. Mm-hmm. Is it TT? Typically, officially is Tourist Trophy was original, but at times is also mistaken for time trial, given the staging intervals of the bikes being released. So not to be confused there, but it's a good way to remember it that it is not all at once at the Isle of Man TT. It is staggered starts from everyone. So sometimes they will catch up to a slower rider in front and pass, which makes it even more difficult to navigate this course. But for the most part, these guys up front are very well spread apart, given their equal pace. But once you start getting past the top 5, top 6, times start to have quite a bit of big variation.
What's this event like as a spectator? I understand that you guys have been to this event, and I mean it's wild to me that these dudes are going as fast as they are, and there's just people like camping out at the side of the road just watching.
Yeah. So, as you can see on the screen here, literally you just find someone's front yard, and for the most part, residents there are very nice, cordial. There's a lot of people, so you kind of got to get there early and hang out, and you're just behind a stone wall, and you just hear, and then you wait for the next one.
That was going to be my next question. Is like, what kind of a glimpse can you get, because they're just careening by, And
it's I wish we had the streaming when we were there, because we could have kept up with the action while also watching it there. So until this year, all you could do in sight was listen to the radio headpiece and listen to the commentary, and then watch as they come by. And now we finally have some video service, and this is great.
So it's a little bit different to just and then there goes the bike, because you can kind of see them coming, and then you can hear them before they get there. Usually, the first riders, you're distracted by the sound of a helicopter flying overhead, which is pretty loud. It reverberates. When we were there in 2019. The first time that we saw the racing, we were at just after the start line. We were in somebody's front yard just after the start line, and the helicopter noise reverberates. So you're kind of prepared for the bikes to come by.
Okay.
But when the first time that you're standing in somebody's yard and a motorcycle goes past you down a hill on a left-hand corner at 180 miles an hour, it hits you in the chest. The sound literally hits you. It moves your body, and it's like I've watched motorcycle racing since I was probably 3 years old. Like, actively watch motorcycle racing. I'm 37, and I've never seen anything like this. it is probably the most astounded I've ever been at witnessing something other than a tragedy.
I can imagine, because I mean, I don't know. The concept of this race was introduced to me when we ran a couple of pieces on the 2019 race, and I'm reading that and just trying to fathom, and even watching this now, like it just looks like they're racing through a neighborhood.
Yeah, these are real public roads, not specialty design, not specially designed to purpose for racing. They try to keep it as true as possible to its roots. They are going to maintain it as best as they can given the event every year.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see here, especially later on in the lap, there are some rough bits of the road. There are several areas in the course where they not only jump, but jump going well over 140, 150 miles an hour faster in some spots. And these machines were not meant for jumping, but that's part of this course. That's part of this event, and that's one of the highlights that the fans really love.
Yeah, there's an element of danger to this that commands respect. And I'm just wondering what you guys would say, comparatively speaking, how much more dangerous is something like this to the average motorcycle race that, we consume here in the States on a regular basis?
Let's answer that, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I think on average I think there's probably 3 fatalities per event on average. There have been hundreds of people killed. Yeah, there have been hundreds of people killed at this event. It's extremely dangerous. And that one thing that a lot of people who have a problem with this race try to do is they try to justify canceling it by thinking about the fatality levels. But as every TT racer will ever tell you, and in any interview they'll tell you, no one's holding a gun to their head. These guys want to do this. There's very little in this race other than glory. It's a completely standalone event. It doesn't fit into a championship anywhere. It's a completely unique event because it's a 37.5-mile lap and 6 laps. These machines are unique to the setups are unique to this track. There's not that much prize money. It's sponsorship money. These guys are doing this for the thrill of it. They're doing it for the glory of it. And there's nothing else that you would need to drive you if you were that way inclined. There's nothing else that you'd need to drive you. And the fatalities and the danger and the risk is part of the thrill. And these guys are willing to do it. And I just find that astounding as a psyche, as a frame of mind. It's just unbelievable. And to me, these guys deserve every ounce of respect that we can muster.
You have to be wired a certain way to do something like this.
Absolutely. And one thing, just to touch on your original question of the difference between a standard race that might watch from a series on a closed circuit, there's no room for error at the Isle of Man. It's, as you can see, there are some barricades here and there, but what's beyond that barricade is literally someone's house, a stone wall, but you have to hit the street curb before you get there. Telephone poles. This is a serious event. Yeah. And these guys do take it absolutely seriously, but they also understand that they have to go as fast as possible. And
in order to win, like it's still the element of competition to it.
Yeah. And and it's talking about I think having the live stream option this year, I think so far it's gone really well for practice and qualifying. So hopefully for the races they get good results out of the live stream that we're participating in here and watching. This has been really good. In the past, growing up enjoying this event, we always had to wait until after the race was over, the race week, and they would have a highlight reel that you could watch later on. But it's so much better, to watch in person or on your phone, on your computer, on your TV, to watch the actual race taking place, and not have to worry about spoilers later on, and then just getting a highlight reel of someone who's handpicked all the footage. But what this really does is, I think this helps expand the event and gives it's already got a notoriety within the motorcycle community, but helping that to grow internationally as well. I think we've seen this year finally a pretty big sponsor. And what we see here on screen is Peter Hickman's main sponsor here is Gas Monkey Garage, which, well, sorry, folks, he is getting close to the curb here.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is the high wire act right there.
So most of these machines, they are sponsored.
Oh, the debris on the road.
Yeah, someone hit the hedges. Or someone was just doing some trimming this morning. And they didn't
out in the
up.
neighborhood. Yeah, just.
What we typically, this is a more United Kingdom based sponsorship level, and things that would be more familiar to a British nationality. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Billy, but having something like Gas Monkey Garage put this money forward, and their social media presence, their presence outside of the motorcycle community, their popularity with cars, this is really good for the sport, especially this event.
Absolutely, totally agree. I mean, this is it is a fully international event. It has always been focused around UK riders. The road racing scene does have, some European events, and it also has the event in Macau. So you do have a bit of an international flavor to this, but this has very much been focused around, British, Irish riders, and having the influence and having the exposure to the United States market is just phenomenal, I think, for the TT, especially with the live streaming option where people can see things, real time. I think it's just going to open a door, hopefully, and let the TT be a little bit more sustainable. I mean, it's been under attack for quite a while. It feels like, as a fan, it feels like it's been under attack. A lot of people asking questions as to why it's allowed to go.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that a little bit more exposure will bring a little bit more appreciation,
Yeah.
So what did we just see there, boys?
What you saw was
a grown man filling his leather suit
himself
with poop.
he was just about. So for those who aren't watching, he was just about to go into a braking marker. Where he was going to hit the brakes pretty hard, and there's a little lift just before that braking marker on the track, and he got all kinds of, well, in the racing world you'd call it crossed up. The front wheel and rear wheel are not quite in line. And moving around all over the place. So,
Milwaukee Tools, a bit of a sponsorship there.
Yeah. So we will see some sort of mainstream on this, and a lot of these sponsorships are actually, a lot of these riders are involved in the closed circuit series in the UK, so the British Superbike series. So a lot of these teams this is their normal, not setup, but their normal team, same mechanics, team owner, riders that race the series championship, but they do the one-off event for the Isle of Man where they do have to pretty much change up the machine altogether. Very specific engine build, bike setup, suspension setup, because of the road course and the grueling demand of the road course. But yeah, so they do have their normal sponsorships throughout the year in the normal series, which is why Lenny earlier was saying that this was a very British focus, because a lot of these guys, if not nearly all of them, are out of the British Superbike Championship series.
Is this the normal broadcast? I mean, would this be airing like on television locally?
No, this is the first time they've had the camera set up. Now,
it seems like a good production. That's why I'm asking.
No, they have always had cameras set up because they have a highlight reel and everything.
Okay,
but they've never. And I think part of it is just the logistics of having a 37-mile course and having this many cameras, that many personnel manning it, and getting the coverage right, getting the sequences right to go live. Dom Herbertson will be one of the racers coming up later. It's really fast. So Billy can help shed some light on previous broadcasts. I know they did on the radio in the UK, I believe.
So they've had BBC broadcasts. I think they've done radio broadcasts. I know that Northern Ireland does a lot of radio broadcasts on road racing, but a lot of the footage that we always used to get in the UK was it was like highlight reels. It was cut and shut at the end of a day, and you could see what had happened during that day. It was really high production value. You had a lot of people who were commentating on things that had happened earlier previously. And I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that there's not that many people that can sit down and watch an hour and 40-minute race, or especially 2 or 3 of them in a day. But at the same time, with the danger of the Isle of Man, you really playing it live, you're really risking seeing something that you don't really want to see.
Because of the danger, you never know what's going to get caught on camera
and
to a live audience.
And unfortunately, this year we've already had one fatality.
Yeah, I read about that.
I believe his name's Mark Perslow. Excuse me if I've got that wrong, but race in peace, man, because that was a rough one, and he unfortunately crashed in qualifying. He never got to make the race this year. And that was never broadcast. We never saw what happened. I'm sure that there's some moron using it for posting and hits on social media.
I haven't seen any of that, so for the most part, I think
I hadn't
very
either.
respectful.
I hope so. Most fans are quite respectful, but all it takes is for the wrong person to get hold of footage, and then all of a sudden it's plastered everywhere. But
sure,
but this being live for the first time, sort of, it adds a flavor.
I think we have to assume that they've got a delay factored in, a 5-second delay likely of actual footage to cut if there were to be an accident on screen. Sorry. And Stoney, so you see now that they are in the mountain section. They've worked their way up here. So this elevation has gone way up. Sorry, folks, we're just watching how amazing this is. So just flat out coming through. Hickman still on top.
Yeah, we're 13 minutes into the first lap, and there's 6 laps, right? So we're coming to the last sort of 2 minutes of the first lap. These guys are starting to bunch up a little bit, and we're seeing Peter Hickman on top. Conor Cummins is he's a Manxman. He's actually from the island. He's in second. And then we've got Dean Harrison in third. Davey Todd is in fourth. He's not far behind Dean Harrison. In the past couple of years, Peter Hickman and Dean Harrison have been really, really close to one another. Dean Harrison's from the UK. He's from a place in Lincolnshire near where I'm from. So I've got a lot of focus on Dean Harrison. He's kind of my boy. But Davey Todd, this is his 3rd event, and he's already lapped an average speed of over 133 miles an hour. I believe I'm not mistaken in saying that.
Suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're coming across. This is at Signpost Corner. So we're coming back up to Glen Critchery Road, which is the start-finish line, and they're going to finish the first lap. At the end of the second lap, they'll come in for a new rear tire and a full tank of gas. Change the visors. Yeah.
So I was going to mention next is, given the length of the course and the number of laps, they will be doing pit stops. And one of the things that, they're always pushing the performance out of these machines. And we've already witnessed in qualifying, our top man currently, Peter Hickman, ran out of fuel during one of the qualifying sessions. So they are probably going to be a little reserved on these first few laps as far as the settings, because he was not able to make a full 2 laps. And I don't think they would take that risk for the race 1 today to just keep pushing flat out on the performance of that machine. They want to get in the pits safely, get enough fuel, and see if they can finish out the full 6 laps.
So we have a question in the comments section. David wants to know, where's the racing? Not exactly sure of what you're asking, David, so I'm going to give you a couple of answers. Number 1, I'm working on getting a link to the streaming service. This is free, correct?
No,
it's not free.
It's
okay,
but they do. I think they have multiple options.
It does,
to where you don't have to get the full package.
I might not be in the right place. This is the right website?
That's it.
Okay, well, I am going to drop this in the comments and give people the option to watch along with us. If you're asking why we're not showing the racing, well, we obviously don't have the rights to distribute the content, the film. The idea of the watch along is that you fire up the race, press play, and you're watching along with us hanging out.
And the more literal answer is in the Isle of Man.
Yes, if that's what you're asking, it is.
That too, yeah. 3 answers for you, David. I hope that suffices. I'm working on getting this link in.
So allow me to ask you, Stoney, so that I distract you horrendously from your task. You've seen your first ever live lap at the Isle of Man TT. What are your thoughts?
Well, we can hear my cat scooping litter out of the litter box in the background. This is exciting, but there's kind of like a weird dynamic to this race where like I'm watching it as holy shit, these guys are insane for trying this, but also this is very beautiful countryside. So I'm kind of it's this
Listen,
weird
it's
this weird, like I don't know how to explain it, but have you ever seen like something, like I don't know, I don't want to be too graphic, but like something so dangerous and something so beautiful at the same time? It's kind of what this reminds me of.
I've been referred to as that.
Is that right?
Yeah. No. So whenever we visited in 2019, it's comparable to a bike week event here in the States as far as the number of motorcycles and the people and the events and things that are going on. But since this is this is technically the main roads of this island on a fairly large section of the island. Once the roads are closed down for the day, they usually do not open them unless they're major postponement or they've canceled the events for the day. So if you're on one side, that's what we found was that if you're on the wrong side of the track when the track goes hot, you're stuck, or you got a long way to go to get to another spot, or just to get back to your campsite or wherever you're going. And they take it very serious. If the track is hot, there's always reports that when they would broadcast us on the radio, listen during practice week, race week, that say someone else got arrested for crossing the track. Now they might not be racing for 3 hours, but if it's a hot track, you are not allowed to step foot on it, and they take that very, very seriously.
One of the big challenges they've had in the past couple of years is selfie sticks. People
trying to
putting
get as close as possible,
getting as close as possible, and ripping holes in leathers. Like people hitting selfie sticks at 100 odd miles an hour, and it just bruising the hell out of their shoulder and ripping through their leathers because it's a foreign object hitting you at a couple of 100 mile an hour.
It just seems like common decency.
So I did want to mark the end of the first lap for you.
First lap, 5 to go.
I wanted to mark the end of the first lap for you. I have a gift for you, which is a memento of this occasion. I, before this event, went online and purchased a few of the actual Isle of Man TT programs. So that's an official program from the event.
We'll hold this up for the camera to see. Thank you, Billy.
And it's a book. I mean, I was expecting something a little bit less than that, but it's a book. I mean, there's just all of the information, stats about the race, all of the races. There's obviously a lot of advertising in there. I'm not sure.
Well, you got to pay the bills.
Well, that's it. But I'm not sure how good it is to display that on the watch along. But yeah, there's a lot of information in there. So yeah, something to remember this by in case you decide not to do it again.
Nice. I
dig it. I'm always up for the live watch alongs. The thought has already crossed my mind. Like we could make this an annual thing if
I think
this service
we're going to do
continues
it
to be offered.
So might as well.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully next year. I mean, the plan is that we go back.
Yeah. So what I was getting at earlier as well, it is a beautiful, beautiful place to go. And while we were there, we had several days of weather incidents, but we never witnessed any of the bad weather because pretty much anywhere, it's usually the weather comes around the mountainside of the island, just given the geography.
Okay.
So whenever it's raining there, that due to the risk of the race, the length of the race, they're not going to run in the rain. Now it might be damp in some spots, and they might still rule it okay, or it might be mid race and there's a little bit of rain on that spot, and they might not red flag the event. But for the days that we were there, we had a lot of days where there was just it kept raining up on the mountainside, but we had this beautiful day, just like how we're seeing on screen right now, beautiful spring day, and we just kind of go do our touristy thing, but we couldn't get to certain spots of the island just because of the course shut down. Also, the number of people that are there. You just see all the tents. And campers.
The people just parked out in the field.
Yeah, so you see all those campers and stuff there. I mean, it's not like the U.S. campers where we have these massive motorhomes, but those there are massive on a lot of these streets in the U.K. But all of that stuff, for the most part, that don't live there, they come over on the ferry from the U.K. And it's really sight to see all the people flow in and out of the island. But what I'm getting at is I want to go back non-race week just to visit. It's a beautiful place with a load of history.
And they're getting jumbled up there. There's like 4 dudes back to back to back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is going to get frustrating for a few riders because they all have their strengths in certain areas of the course. Especially Michael Dunlop here is extremely experienced around this course. And we can get into give Stoney the history of the Dunlop family as well.
This turn that they keep showing right now, it reminds me of like they're racing through the streets of like Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
It is a little bit like that. I mean, it's not quite as close in as the streets of Gatlinburg. I mean, I must admit, but there's so many things because I live on the outskirts of Wilson County. I'm up toward the east of Wilson County, and as a road race fan, I look at some of the roads around where I'm at, and I'm just like, give me a 10-mile circuit and get the agreement of the people that live on that road, and let's do an event in the United States. Like the weather, at least, is a lot more reliable than on an island in the middle of the ocean.
Sure.
The weather's warmer. You'd get a lot more performance out of the machinery. I'm absolutely certain that there are race teams in the United States that would love to do like road racing, real road racing, as they call it, that would love to do real road racing events in the United States, but there are none. The last one really was the Pikes Peak, and they've just shut that one down a couple of years ago.
Motorcycle. They still race cars there, but they won't allow motorcycle racing anymore.
And there's so much opportunity. There are so many places. I mean, within the United States, you could host international road racing events in probably 5 or 6 different states and get entirely different experiences absolutely every single time. And they would be international events that would pull thousands of people to watch, this kind of an event. And I mean, this kind of an event, the Isle of Man TT will always be unique. It will always be a unique event. The chances of you getting another thick end of 40-mile circuit to do a road race is slim to none. But you could do road racing anywhere in the world. It's just not as popular as I'd like it to be, and I'm sure other people would like it to be.
But when it comes into, there's so much that had to go into it, and at the end of the day, it's the liability of it all, and those in charge must accept that liability.
Imagine like the people putting it on and promoting it, the business insurance policy you'd have to take out for something like this.
Yeah, I don't even know how insurance works for this kind of racing. We've just had a graphic up on the screen through the Sulby Speed Trap. So I think the Sulby Speed Trap is the fastest speed trap on the island. I think there's a couple of different speed traps, but we've just seen Peter Hickman go through there at a top speed of 193 miles an hour.
Jeez.
So,
oh my God,
193 miles an hour on a public road, which over the past week has been ridden on, but when the track closes and it turns back into a public road, people get back in their cars and drive back on it, and they just go about their day, go to work, and then the road closes, and then bikes are doing 193, and that's only going to get faster over the week as the track improves and the grip improves, as there's been more tires scrubbing rubber into it. So I find that absolutely astounding. I mean, I've been quick on bikes, obviously 70 and only 70.
Right, of
miles
course.
per hour.
Maximum speed limit.
Yeah, maximum speed limit. I mean, drive safe, kids. But I've done some speed on some bikes, and I've been nowhere near that, and I can't imagine that on those kind of roads.
I think the fastest I've ever traveled, I was in the car with, I believe, friend of the brand, Sean in Omaha for a long time, Sobros Network fans. And I think we got up to 140.
Wow.
I believe. It's about the fastest I've ever been. Did you just draw a penis on our notepad?
It's actually to scale as well.
Yeah. Thick.
The first Isle of Man TT broadcast watch along on Sobros Network commemorated with a penis drawing on the notepad.
Yeah.
So you said earlier you wanted to enlighten me on the history of the Dunlop family.
Yeah, so it's definitely the most famous name in road racing, and the reason for that is one of the men behind us here in this shirt, Joey Dunlop. How many time winner?
26.
26, yeah, 26-time winner. His brother, Robert, followed in behind him. Had a very good professional career as a road racer. Joey was always more of the wild card, very laid back, would show up in the back of the van with the bike, go out, stomp everybody, go home, smoking a cigarette in the pits. Things were different in those days.
For sure.
And then it was Robert's sons, who one of them is on screen now. We're watching Michael Dunlop and William. And as with anyone who stays in this sort of sport long enough, you're going to see tragedy, and especially with this road racing type. Both Robert and Joey lost their lives to road racing, and now Robert's son, William, Michael's brother, passed away just a few years ago as well. So Michael is the last of the Dunlops still out here competing for the win.
Wow.
Yeah. It goes a little bit deeper. The Michael raced, I think it was 2 or 3 days after his father,
2 days,
2 days after his father passed away at the Northwest 200
on the same course,
and took his bike to the win. Actually won the race 2 days after his father passed away on that circuit. Which is, just an outstanding frame of mind.
Absolutely.
If I'm
not mistaken, both brothers were on course during the accident, where they were just behind him.
So, yeah, and I don't think William ended up racing, but they couldn't stop Michael from racing. The event organizers tried to stop him, and he basically just told him to eat one, and went out and did it. And if anybody ever watches that footage, I get goosebumps just even thinking about that. But watching it is something else. It's a real impactful moment if you know the story. It's not just a race win.
And what he means is him after the post race.
Yeah.
Him, his team, family, everyone involved.
It's almost cathartic. It's almost like a way of getting to terms with it. I know that you could never get to terms with it, but it's just what they did. It's just how they do it. And
I think it's one way to understand too. We from an outside perspective, and we get this a lot from participants in the sport, saying that it's too dangerous, too much liability, and they want to shut it down when they're not even involved. But you see, if that family they said, we're not going to stop. We know that it could kill us, and statistically, if we keep doing this, we likely will die on this course. And they do not want this event to stop. They do not want this type of sport to stop.
It's a very powerful and pure love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that's, I don't know. That's what resonates with me. Obviously, it doesn't resonate with every non-fan because they're trying to shut it down. But
I try not to gush when I talk about this stuff because I have a lot of passion for this kind of racing. But to me, this event specifically transcends a race. It's more than just the event. This is part of a lifestyle. This is part of trying to achieve something. Again, there's not much money in this game. There's not much money in motorcycle racing anyway, but these people are doing this for the love. They're doing this for the adrenaline. They're doing this for the challenge. And on a lot of instances, if not, I would dare say most instances, their families are absolutely behind them. You know, and it's an age-old adage, you know, to die doing what you love. And, you know, these guys are willing to risk that because they love something so much. And that to me is just ridiculously powerful.
I don't want to be dramatic. I've been known to be dramatic on occasion, but it reminds me of like the Vikings wanting to die in battle. Like it was honorable to die in battle. It's a similar sort of mindset.
Yeah. And I'd say the difference is they're not seeking to die.
Well, yeah,
but it's something that is accepted and very much aware of. But I think, just this being much different than even the most type of motorcycle racing is this course being the length it is, the number of laps, the number of miles they're turning out in one race. And most of these guys are racing multiple events. So, and doing qualifying, practice, all that. They put in a ton of miles through this 2-3 week session. And I mean, it's an adventure more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's not just, I did a lap. It is, the track is so big. You've got the mountain section, the towns. It is an adventure that they're on every single lap. So we got first bikes coming in now for a pit stop, getting fuel, rear tire. Very calm, relaxed.
Where part of the strategy comes into the race, like when to stop, when to.
No, these machines aren't capable of doing anything more than 2 laps. Like that motorcycle as it came in would have been running on fumes.
Yeah. So it's like necessity.
Absolute necessity. Okay. That rear tire will be, for use of an English term, shagged to shit. I mean, that thing will be absolutely destroyed. To put it straight into the dumpster.
And you'll see that they do have rules on what type of equipment you can use and how many people involved in the pit stop. So this is no NASCAR.
Well, that's immediately where my mind went growing up watching NASCAR races with my grandfather and just hearing him be like, oh, he shouldn't have stopped there. He should have. Yeah. Or, when they stay on the track, it's like, oh, he's, got some balls to. Yeah.
No. And given the length of the course, if you try to leave it too far long, you're either going to crash from bad tires or you're going to run out of fuel immediately. So everyone's pretty much at that. There's not much advantage to gain unless you're really just taking your time in the pits, but they're limited on what kind of tools they can use. And so everyone's kind of at the same pace for the pit stops for the most part.
So, I mean, we're watching a guy on screen, Peter Hickman. He's the race leader right now. He's the force right now in TT racing. And, we're watching Steve Plater try and interview people whilst they're working.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. It's he's hopefully not going to get in the way. I mean, Steve Plater's I think he's a TT winner, so I think he probably knows where he's going. But the Peter Hickman, who's, like I say, he's a force. He's multiple time TT winner. He's the fastest, technically what they call the fastest road racer on the planet, with a lap of 135.4, I believe it was, in 2018. He ran out of fuel on a second lap this week in qualifying. So it just goes to show sort of how your experience doesn't really matter in terms of the day and the setup and the track the way that it is. So what was noticed over qualifying was how much overrun his bike was having and how much unburned fuel it was spitting out of the exhaust. And he ran out of fuel before he came back to the pit. So that was his session on that bike done. That bike was just parked up against a fence and he managed to, grab a lift from a bystander and get back to the pits. So it's really, really fine margins in TT in the TT.
That makes the race itself a bit of an equalizer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's another thing to mention too, that he touched on there is if you have an issue with the bike or, if something happens and you have to stop on course, you are several miles away from where you need to be. And so like during the qualifying sessions, these guys they're desperate for laps. And because of the weather situations, things get postponed and moved around. You need to get as much track time as you can. And so there was multiple cases, but a famous one yesterday, David Todd gets stuck pretty much at the complete opposite end of the course and has to bum a ride with somebody on a dirt bike pretty much. And they took turns. They were 2 up on the dirt bike riding back on the trails that are around the Isle of Man to get back to the pits in time.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, looks like we have a big fan commenting.
Yeah, our very own resident film critic Brandon Vick must have, he's waking up now. Chimes in on the stream. I love motorcycles.
Mhm.
I think we should get Brandon on one of these one year. If he'll wake up at 4:50.
Yeah, we'll just have to
and get
broadcast
ready.
from Brandon's bed.
Yeah, we'll have to broadcast
Again.
live from Brandon Vick's bed.
Shout out to my wife, by the way, who's actually woken up early this morning and is listening to me.
Oh,
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently she can't get enough, clearly.
It's nice to have Beatrice with us. It's great. Billy's wife.
Billy's wife. Billy's wife, B. Mama B.
Conor Cummins is out of the race.
Out of the race.
Yeah. Must have mechanical failure.
Visibly frustrated.
The big man, Brian McCormack. He's been running great all in qualifying. He's pulled into the pits and retired. That's it. His race is over.
Yeah, still not sure what's going on with Conor Cummins though, but they did say he pulled off on course. So
That's a bit risky.
It took me a minute. The dialect. Sounds fun though.
I mean, it's a beautiful setting.
yeah, it really is. There's
Be able to resist the urge.
Yeah. I mean, who can?
I am curious as to what Brandon would think of this. I also think he'd be in for like 15 minutes and then be like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
See you guys
I
later.
agree.
I mean, we've got another 4 laps if he
He can still get over here.
Yeah. Just if Brandon, if you do make it over, don't bring McDonald's because Stoney's already
Yes.
vomited once today.
Well, that was just because I ate so fast. Oh, we lost the flag. Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Here, hang on. I got us covered. Look, we just put up this overlay.
Oh, there
There
we
we
go.
Now I can mute us too.
Nah,
Okay.
we're doing that because I'm not wearing pants. That's why we had to put that up.
None of us are. Which is even weirder because Billy's not even on camera. Billy's completely nude. Here, can you get by? Riveting broadcast here.
So Peter Hickman's actually leading the race now by 18 seconds to Dean Harrison, which is, I mean, that's just, a pretty hardcore difference in times. In the past, we've had Hickman and Harrison chopping and changing for the lead on the last lap. Literally going through timing sectors, one in the lead and then the next in the lead by 0.7 of a second and things like that. So to be 18 seconds ahead,
These vehicles moving as fast as they are,
and for such a long time, I mean, that's
like an eternity.
yeah, it is a very, very long time.
It's a long gap for him to try to make up time.
Well, that was going to be my next question is like, how do you approach making that up?
But part of it is you have no idea as well as a rider. They'll tell you when you come into the pits, but for 2 laps,
So you're just
Yeah.
going. That's the
yeah,
mindset.
Your
You just
mind,
go.
you just have to put in your best pace possible and hope for the best. Essentially,
I mean, it's not really a race. I mean, technically it's a race. There's a winner and a load of people who don't win.
Sure.
But it's you against the circuit, and that is the mindset of a lot of these riders. They're just trying to go as quickly as they can go, and as long as they do that, then what will be for a lot of people. I mean, someone like Dean Harrison would probably, if he knew that he was 18 seconds behind, he's not going to risk anything more than he's already risking.
Yeah.
He's just going to keep trying to hit his markers, hit his apexes, get the bike stood up and driven out of corners and just keep going as quickly as he can. He's not going to try and go, okay, well, I can probably make up 3 seconds over the mountain if I risk it, because that's the way that you end up in a wall or something. So.
And I'll know that there's so many laps here, so many miles of putting in. It takes one little mistake, you can gain that time back. It's
still plenty of race to go.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You see people make mistakes all the time. They'll miss a braking marker and run on, on a corner and end up having to do a U-turn kind of thing on a motorcycle. That's a bit, difficult, especially when you're full of adrenaline and all that kind of thing. So
yeah,
you could see that, you could see that time being made up. I mean, if Hickey has a problem with fuel again, and his bike starts to stutter, he'll be in fuel management mode up until he gets back to the pits. So you can easily drop, tens of seconds if your bike's not performing.
Yeah. And we see now. So if something were to happen to Peter Hickman, Dean Harrison and Michael Dunlop are right on top of each other. So if Peter runs out of fuel, he's out of the race. These two guys right now could, although 18 seconds behind, could very well be fighting back and forth for the win.
Just going to correct that. Michael Dunlop's 18 seconds behind Dean Harrison.
Oh, yeah, that's my bad. I'm just an idiot.
Because John McGuinness is 2 seconds behind Ian Hutchinson at this point.
Are you sure that's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise John McGuinness couldn't be 2 seconds behind Ian Hutchinson.
That's true. That'd be right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But I've always found it quite difficult to trace this stuff, because people are obviously coming across the timing strips at random points, because they're all over the place now on the track, right? The track's full of machines, and so it's kind of aggregated, and so it looks as though someone's really far behind, and then three people will pop up in front of that person, so they might be even further behind, but there's more people that are closing that gap. So the important ones obviously are the top three, and right now we've got thick end of 37 seconds covering the top three. I mean, all Hickey needs to do is manage this race now.
And hope for a good clean pit stops now at this point.
Part of me says that he's not going to go any slower just because he knows that he's 18 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
This is like a city here.
Yeah, so you're going through multiple towns. I mean, it's 37-mile course. There's multiple, some old village style. You get up into the coast, and you get down into Douglas, where the starting line in the section is. That's the capital city. Yeah.
Looking at John McGuinness bunny hopping his way through one of the turns. It seems that, that's a good camera spot, but it seems that we're getting quite a lot of people who seem to really push that corner. So on the outside of the track, there's there's a lot of sidewalks around this circuit. Something that I've noticed isn't particularly prominent in the United States. I wonder why that is. Why there's not as many sidewalks all over the place.
I don't know, but growing up here, this was like before Providence and everything was built. I don't think there was a sidewalk in Mount Juliet. I remember like seeing sidewalks in neighborhoods and cartoons and TV shows and being like,
what are they?
What is that like? I remember thinking like, man, that would be pretty cool. I could ride my bike on a sidewalk in the summertime.
Not get hit by a car.
Worry about getting hit by a car. That would be lovely.
You wouldn't get ticks.
That's true.
Walking in the ditch.
Yep.
So yeah, there's sidewalks all over this place, right? Mainly within the towns and villages that you go through, but they are raised curbs. They're probably between 2 and 3 inches tall, solid concrete curbs, and in some instances these riders have used them as berms. So they actually touch them in order to get a better drive. Some of them make mistakes and roll up them, but you can imagine on a machine that's as finely tuned as they are, hitting a curb's going to damage a lot if it doesn't flick you off. So to see riders around that corner pushing the machines, sliding up to the curbs and not touching them is just an awesome thing to see.
I'm going to ask you guys a technical question. What does it mean when there's fire shooting out of the back of the bike?
So it's unburnt fuel through the motor. It's going through. So you see that going on a downshift. And just the way that they had the machines tuned, you're going to get fuel built up there, and as they start to downshift and come down to the Ramsey hairpin, especially where we see Peter Hickman's bike all week, that's where they've been seeing a lot of flames. Basically, you're getting that unspent fuel igniting at that point and sending flames out through the exhaust.
Pretty badass.
It makes for an interesting slow-mo shot, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. We talk about the honor and pride that's involved in this race. What does winning this race do for the racer's legacy?
It puts them on a short list
Yeah.
of a miraculous achievement, that's for sure. Because as we said, a lot of these guys have multiple wins. So it's not like, oh, this year that guy won, then that guy won. It's, a lot of these guys have multiple wins. They have a fairly short reign, and then they may not compete again. But you have a few of the guys out here, Michael Rudder, John McGinnis, who have almost 30 wins between the pair of them or more. So it's a very short list. These guys are racking up that many wins over the years. Joey Dunlop has had 26 to his name, other Dunlops as well. So although it's been going on for a long time, there's not a huge list of winners.
So you talk about this short pool of winners of this race. How much of that success do you think is tied into this sort of iron will, this sort of focused mindset of just, I'm going to do this for the love of the race, the passion, and just, we've talked about it a lot on this broadcast so far, just the way you have to be wired to be successful at some of this.
So to me, this is my personal opinion, but I think that is the key to winning this race, because what you've seen in the past is, with how close the British Superbike riders are to this race, the Superbike series won't race when the TT's happening, so that they allow the people to move.
Very well.
And, we've seen a lot of talented people enter this race and not be able to get up to pace, because real road racing versus short circuit racing, it's a completely different discipline. It's, it's like any sport, you can have multiple versions of the same sport, and they might be along the same lines, but they are completely different skill sets. A question that a lot of these guys get asked is, if you do both short circuits and road racing, what's the percentage of effort that you are putting in when it comes to road racing? What's your limit? What's your that sort of that bit that you won't put in, right? So are you riding at 85% when you're on the roads, and all of these guys say, I'm riding at 100% everywhere that I go, but I have to ride differently, because I can't risk falling into a gravel trap, because there isn't a gravel trap, it's somebody's post box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a completely different style of riding, and but yet it's still just riding a motorcycle as quickly as is physically possible. So the only thing, I think, and it's my opinion, but the only thing that differentiates the people who are super fast on short circuits and winning championships and people who win TT races is the mindset. It's how far are you willing to go in order to win this thing, which is why people like Joey, who had 26 race wins, passed away at a race in Estonia in the year 2000, 3 weeks after he won his last TT, I believe at the age of 40. He was in his high 40s, if not up to 50. I'll check that in a second. But, there's a reason why that guy was winning races up to the time that he passed away. And that's because of the way that he rode. And that guy loved a hard race. I mean, there's epic stories of, people racing, bashing fairings with him, making him run on, him making them run on in corners. And then him, putting a pint down next to them and saying, I enjoyed that. He was such a super quiet and, interesting character. I mean, the guy was the kind of guy, as Ryan alluded to put the bike in the van and turn up at the track. But he always also used to use that van and pack it full of supplies and go to impoverished areas and just turn up. The guy was just a really different kind of character. And I think that was his mindset that allowed him to do what he did on the circuit. He was a talented road racer. He was a talented motorcycle rider. But at the same time, that wasn't what took him to greatness. What took him to greatness was...
My
sorry,
God. We got the cat
attacking the Alamat flag.
Yeah,
And
Okay.
what took him to greatness was his mindset and what he was willing to do. I don't know whether that answered your question.
Hey, stop.
Did you mute?
What?
Did you mute?
No, we're still on.
Still on.
Hey, go on upstairs. Go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Stoney disciplining his cat.
Disciplining his cat. And that's not a euphemism.
Should be. All right, we've got the riders coming across for the end of the third lap. And Peter Hickman stretched it again. He's at 22 seconds.
We just witnessed him overtake Michael Dunlop a few minutes ago. So he's got quite a bit of breathing room, clear track in front of him.
So we're just seeing him, start the beginning of the fourth lap. And there's something special about watching bikes go down Bray Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come down Glen Crutchley Road, cross the timing stripe, and then launch themselves straight into Bray Hill. That's a downhill. For those who can't see, it's a downhill left hand into a right hand corner. The right hand corner, where you turn in is actually a low part in the road. So you're going downhill and then you immediately go uphill.
Just completely bottom out the suspension.
Thank you, sir. And you're in the middle of a town, so there's villages, standing around, and there's, houses and dry stone walls and trees, and you're doing 180 miles an hour.
And there's a lovely food truck right there at that dip as well.
And a gas station that serves beer that's warm.
Well, that's good. It's in the UK.
It's a fallacy, everybody.
All
Don't believe the lies.
Is warm beer.
Don't believe the lies, people.
I watched you drink a warm beer at my house last night. I think it's just because you were too lazy to let it cool down.
Ill-prepared. I'm an Englishman.
And just drop some ice in it.
Sorry, I just vomited in my mouth.
That's what they do in Texas.
Cold milk.
Of course it is.
Have a hard time keeping their beer cold.
It's hot as shit.
It's hot down there. All right, I think we have the cat wrangled. He had grown bored with everything else in the room and was like, what's this thing hanging on the wall?
Get off my banister.
All right, so we are an hour into the broadcast. I believe, are we still on the third lap?
We are on lap
4. We've gone into lap 4.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be another pit stop after this lap.
Yeah.
So about halfway through the race, an hour into the broadcast, what are our thoughts on where the race is at and how it's shaken down so far?
Yeah, man, the pretty evenly paced right now. Watching Dean Harrison, Michael Dunlop in second place there. They're running about the same pace. I don't know if Michael's going to be able to catch anything on him. It looks like this running order is what we're going to see at the end of the race, unless we get into some mechanical problems for the top three. I don't think anyone's got anything for Peter Hickman, which was kind of the assumption heading into this morning.
The thing is Peter's got now in excess of a 22-second lead. And he's
clear track.
And he is on the pipe. He is absolutely running as fast as he can go. His bike is all kinds of out of shape entering corners, absolutely clamped down in the middle of a corner, and he's just accelerating so hard out of everything. He's really attacking the course.
Yeah. And I think this might. So he had passed Michael Dunlop towards the end of lap 3, and this might actually be a chance for Michael to make up some time on Dean Harrison, because Peter's not left Michael. Yeah, he's still on him. So I think he's getting a nice tow from Hickman. Might make up some time for second place.
Just seeing the broadcast with the captions on. It's kind of funny how some of it's not accurate, but technology these days, right?
Is it struggling between Middle Tennessee and Yorkshire?
Mm-hmm.
Watching some super slow-mo shots of Michael Dunlop going through, Peter Hickman going through, and John McGuinness in the background. So, this is John McGuinness's 100th TT start. He's 50 years old. And there's Michael Rutter, who started in third on the BMW. You know, he's 50 years old also. So there's 100 years in age. And I mean,
almost 30 victories between the two.
And I don't know how many starts they've had between them. I mean, Michael Rutter's been doing this since he was, a young man. I mean, his father, Tony Rutter, was a bit of a TT legend, a racing legend in the UK. Sadly, no longer with us. And Michael has been racing forever, it seems to me. I mean, I've had the fortunate opportunity to socialize with Michael on a couple of occasions years ago, back when he was in the HM Plant Honda team racing in the British Superbikes. Super nice guy, really, really friendly, always game for a laugh, quiet, just a really reserved kind of guy, unless he's, on the beers and having a good time, from what I've heard. But, I always saw him in a relatively professional capacity, even in his downtime. And super nice guy and just a wicked road racer. So, between the two of them, they're trying to fend off a younger field.
And just to point out, John McGuinness is in fourth place ahead of other younger winners, guys that are in their prime. And apart from these top three, he's the fastest guy out there. It's just incredible.
Yeah, he's been questioned a lot of time on the run up to this because between him and Michael, the age is there, and they've been saying, are you looking to retire? And I think both of them have alluded to the fact that they're going to retire after a race, and that's it. They're not going to aim for a retirement because when they'll say it's the last one that bites you.
Yeah.
So they're both going to just know when it's time, and then that's it. And if it's in the middle of a meeting, it's in the middle of a meeting. That's it. I'm not going to ride again. Yeah. And just make that decision.
And as a non motorcycle person yourself, that's fairly common. There's a lot of little superstitions across multiple disciplines, and probably not just with motorcycle racing, automotive racing as well. Is that I found growing up, it was a very common thing, and I ran into this as well, and I don't do it anymore. Was I always say one more lap, one more time, one more this, and that's usually like Dom says, the one that bites you. So I'd always would go, maybe a few more, and then I'd randomly pick a spot and be like, okay, I'm done. And instead of let me do that one more time, because that one more time, without fail, do that. Thanks for that input, Billy.
Awesome.
Just give up.
Yeah, just give up. Yeah.
I totally lost my thought there. Well, I also think like knowing it's going to be the last of anything kind of affects your frame of mind going into it, right? To be successful, I think you do have to kind of have that sort of that mindset where it's just like you're winning, you're performing,
aiming towards something and not making up the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I was seeing now, theory was correct there. Michael Dunlop has made up a few seconds on Dean Harrison, but I don't think it's going to be enough. It's Dean's still flying, but we'll see.
Yeah,
couple laps to go.
They're up to Black Bridge. There's a good, I don't know, couple of miles left. I mean, they've got to go up the mountain, so there's probably another third of the lap left. And forgive me if anybody's irate at the fact that I don't know where Black Bridge.
It's hard to keep up to because we're bouncing around on the camera view here.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
I mean, we're looking at the timings. Obviously, not everybody's come through yet, but at Black Bridge, John McGuinness is a minute and 6 seconds behind Michael Dunlop in third. So, so to look at that, Peter Hickman's a multiple time TT winner. Dean Harrison's a multiple time TT winner. I think Michael Dunlop's got like 16 wins. And then you've got John McGuinness, who's at 23 wins, and Ian Hutchinson. I mean, he has probably, I don't want to make a mistake, but around, 15 wins maybe. But Ian Hutchinson is a legend in his own right because he's I think the only person ever to have won all 5 motorcycle races in a week.
In 1 week.
That was in 2010. And if anybody watches the movie TT Closer to the Edge,
Yeah, he's got 16 wins.
16 wins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if anybody ever watches TT Closer to the Edge, it's a coverage of the 2010 event with Guy Martin as a kind of focus for that. But it's obviously covering the entire event, and Hutchie does just an incredible job that week.
If I'm not mistaken, it's Hutchinson who has had some very bad luck
as
well, and for him to still be out here, let alone to return to road racing, is a miracle in itself. He's had some very, very, very bad crashes.
Yeah, he in 2010, after he won the 5 TTs in a week, he was racing in the British Superbike Championship. I think it was Superbike or Super Stock, and he was at a wet race in Silverstone, and crashed, and then someone ran over his leg and pretty much severed his left leg. And they managed to save it. And then he had a load of issues.
They were pushing for amputation,
and he had a load of issues with his recovery, and the bones got infected, and he rebroke it, and then he fell off at the TT in, I think it was 2017, and he fell off and broke the same leg again. And in his recovery, he had a rough recovery. So he actually
back here in 5th place.
Yeah, he actually races with I believe it's a right foot shift and a left either hand or thumb rear brake.
I think they were doing thumb, but I think they might all be doing hand levers now instead of thumb.
So for those who've never ridden a motorcycle, gear shift is on your left foot, but his ankle is fused, so he can't shift gears the normal way or the natural way as in for a racer for his entire career. So he had his machine modified so that his gear shift is on his right foot. I can't imagine how difficult that is to go through. I mean, coming from the UK, moving to the United States, it's the other side of the road, but you're also sitting on the other side of the car. And even though the gear shift, I mean, if you're in manual, the gear shift is in the other hand, the pedals are still the same. Indicators and, turn signals and lights and everything are still the same.
Thanks for clarifying that, Billy.
Translating. But I can't imagine how difficult it is. I mean, as a ex-racer or a current racer, actually, how difficult would that be to make that transition?
I don't think it would be that difficult as long as you're not swapping back and forth. If you're doing a lot of street riding and then you have to get on the race bike as well, it might throw in some confusion. But after a lap, I think you figure out what you need to do and your body gets used to it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. How quick do you think something like that is to commit to muscle memory?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there might be some hiccups here and there, but I have a feeling the amount of focus you have to have at that level, I think you catch on really quick. Your body just knows you got to do it.
What's the vibe like among the fans at this event?
That's a party.
It's a party. I was wondering if it's like
I mean it's
Talladega and stuff like that.
A little different, just because culturally it's different. It is a pilgrimage. From mostly from all over Europe. A lot of people from the States come, but it's mostly you get representation. We've met people from, I don't know, at least a dozen different countries
easily.
Like as soon as we got there, and helping people out. Because a lot of people will ride from mainland Europe and get on the ferry, get the tent on their bike, come over there and set up. So it's it is a for some people it's bare bones. Anything you can fit on your motorcycle, show up, watch the race for a few weeks, head home. So everyone kind of has to stick together out in the field, camping for the most part. Is what most people have to do. And it's a good time.
So camping, you mean like this is where like these people stay?
So the racers will bring campers and motorhomes and all those kind of things.
Whatever. And there are some sites that have, like a tent you can rent that's already set up and stuff. But yeah, essentially at some parts you're camped out on the side of the course. Other parts there's campsites all over the island that you can.
They have the TT Village as well, which is like a makeshift hotel, like a load of pods that they sort of fabricate, put together. So you can be in relative comfort, but if anybody was wanting to get to next year's TT, the latest, if you want options, the latest you want to be booking is in the next month or so, because like the hotels will fill out, the TT Village will fill, and then you're left to tents that are either prefabricated, as Ryan alluded to, or you have to bring your own stuff, and it's literally sitting in a field.
Yeah, and you got to think like the number of crew members for the race teams, the facilities, all that. I mean, that's hotel,
Yeah, and then
apartments, all that getting filled up right there.
the production
Yeah,
people.
There's a lot of people involved in the event, let alone the fans that come as well. So there's very limited space, plenty of space for camping and all that. But as far as like trying to get a hotel, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, there was a couple of people who were struggling to. I mean, we got to the campsite in 2019, and we were putting our stuff up, and we sort of dry runned our equipment. Made sure that we camp a little bit, but we dry running our equipment before we left the mainland England and going into the Isle of Man. We got there and we were trying to set our tent up, and there was a couple that were from, I think they were from Switzerland or something.
Yeah, they were Austria.
Yeah. And
no, you're right.
Wherever they were from, they'd never even opened their tent.
Yeah.
And so they had no idea how to put it up, and they were on the top of a cliff in Douglas. Well, it was actually in
Onken. And they rode,
and
I assume from home country on a pretty small bike too.
Yeah,
two up.
Yeah, two up. And they didn't know how to put their tent together in the blasting wind and rain.
Oh yeah. So you get this. So you can kind of see in some of these shots, especially the mountain section, you can kind of look off and there's the coast.
Yeah.
To the ocean, and it's just this beautiful sheep pasture sloped up towards that, and that's pretty much where we were staying. And the wind that just was constantly blowing through there, and just trying to hold this tarp. There's three of us going while you're trying to put a pole through it. It was pretty, especially with someone else's tent that we're trying to read the instructions and not let them blow away either. It's a good time.
It was fun. All right, so we've got Dean Harrison coming into the pits now for his second stop. So if he gets a good stop, he might make up a little bit of time, but I think that this is insurmountable.
Yeah, he's well above
Hickman
20 seconds behind.
Some sort of a technical issue. Some energy gel, a drink.
Energy gel?
Yeah. Just
what is energy gel?
Like the little Gatorade pouch. It's a different type of brand. It's like a little nutritional.
You just slurp it up.
Gel,
yeah. A lot of like sportsmen use them just as a, it's a high energy content, high sugar content.
Stomach.
Yeah.
It's one thing we haven't really discussed, and you may have been confused on this as well, as the Dunlop name versus Dunlop tires. We hear the name Dunlop with it being a tire manufacturer, but coincidentally, Michael Dunlop was riding Dunlop tires at a recent event, the Northwest 200, as were several riders, and Dunlop had several tire failures. Very fortunate that no one was injured in those, because it was Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop, who are two of the top three riders here, who had tire failures at near full speed, and were able to come out of that unscathed. That's historically that's happened in motorsports, in motorcycle racing. That typically ends in a pretty big crash, especially that sort of speed. Just the tire alone hitting the riders in the back can break leathers or give the body some serious harm as well, just from that slap of the rubber across the back. But it destroyed the tail section of Michael Dunlop's bike during that event. So that being said, this was kind of a last minute thing. The Northwest 200 is a good, fun event. It's prestigious in its own right, but it's also a good chance for these guys to prep for the TT, because it's right before the Isle of Man. So Dunlop said, this is too close to that event. We're not confident that there's not going to be a big issue, because that would be a PR nightmare if that happened here, and it's dangerous for the riders. So I know Michael Dunlop had to switch to Metzler's. I don't know if everyone else did Metzler as well.
I don't know.
But going from a tire to a tire you might be familiar with, but you don't have recent testing on it, last minute like that at an event like this, that's huge.
That seems scary.
Tires feel very different. There's, and bike setup. You got to make your adjustments differently as well. The rubber comes from different plants. I say that factory setup and different locations in the world. it's a different consistency.
I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that point as Dunlop was in the pits, because I don't know whether you noticed, but that Metzler was a cut Metzler. So that was a road tire, not a
I
racing
didn't
slick.
notice. Oh.
So I don't know whether he couldn't get slicks delivered in time, whether they didn't have them available in the right compound. But Michael Dunlop appears to be running his superbike, because some people don't have a superbike and then a stock bike and then a super sport. So they'll run their super stock bike in the superbike race, and they'll just chance it with, well, not chance it, because the machines aren't that different on the TT. They're a couple of seconds or a couple of miles an hour average speed different. The superbike's usually faster, but some people feel more comfortable on stock machinery. And so they lap faster on stock machinery than they do on superbikes. But I believe that that's a full-fledged superbike, Suzuki GSXR 1000 superbike with road tires on.
It might be. And sorry, we could take a moment there. If they come back to another bike in the pit, Stoney, we'll take a look at it. But you just got to think, like, from here, it looks like a nice, pretty bike, everything, and they're nice, clean, and new before the race. But that many miles on a road course like that, going in and out of trees, neighborhoods, mountain, they are filthy at the end of the race.
I would imagine.
Just, debris, dirt, dust, things like that, but just covered in bugs.
Bugs?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mosquitoes and, little flies, gnats,
everything. Just think about what you would hit in your car, and just they're covered. And Michael Rudder's bike was a good sign of that just a moment ago.
I noticed that they were like really wiping them. They had one guy in the pit that was really wiping the front of it down.
You'll notice in the pits, one of the more key pieces that they change in the pits is actually the visor. So the visors have sticky layers called tear-offs, in case you're unfamiliar. And so that means that as soon as they get covered, they can just tear off the sticker, and then they've got a clean one underneath. And they have to use extra thick packs of tear-offs, and then every time they pit, they take the whole visor off and put an entirely new visor back on.
And it has a new set of tear-offs already applied to it as well.
So
you typically see that in like off-road racing, where you get a lot of mud and dirt on there. But you have to do that in road racing as well, but especially here.
So we've got, you mentioned him earlier, Dom Herbertson in ninth. So Dom Herbertson.
Yeah, I've mentioned Dom's name quite a few times in this broadcast. He is running in the top 10.
He's from the northeast of England. He's a Geordie, for anybody that knows what that means. And he's a woodcutter by trade. So an interesting aspect of this is not everybody here, that this runs very closely to British Superbikes, but not everybody here is a professional racer. And so there are some people like Jamie Coward. Jamie Coward, I believe, is either a plumber or an electrician. Dom Herbertson, a woodcutter. There's a lot of people who have regular day-to-day jobs who turn up with a bike in a van and run what they brung, kind of thing. And Dom Herbertson's a very well seasoned racer. He's been racing with his father was a racer, or still is a racer. And Dom's really, really talented. He's aiming for a 130 mile an hour lap. He has a 130 club if anybody wants to pay £130 to help him get to 130. I'm hoping this year he will get to 130, but we were talking about the visors and the lack of visibility when you get completely coated in dead things. Dom Herbertson's actually racing with an eye injury right now. He had a kickback injury from his chainsaw a couple of months ago. And, he was wearing his visor, he was wearing his helmet, he was wearing all of his safety equipment. I mean, it's what he does for a living. And it flicked it back up and it crushed his orbital bone and just decimated his all the way up a vertical line up his eye.
Yeah.
And he was struggling through practice to get up to speed. This is what I've heard from, the guys on the TVs and, reading the articles and stuff, and struggling with his eye because, he's having some difficulty in moving his eye and, keeping up to speed. So to see him in ninth, flying on a superbike and, really performing well, is just, that's awesome. It's testament to the guy's resolve, because, that's a pretty big issue. If you can't see, you can't ride. And it's hard enough to see as you go around the TT anyway.
Yeah. And then with the issues like the bugs we're talking about here, affecting visibility. Yeah. How many racers are in the field?
There's 40 people who start
40?
the race. It'll be in that program that's there. It'll tell you how many people were scheduled to start. I believe that there's either 40 or 50 entrant spots. The first 20 are seeded, and then and the numbers that you get on your machine is the number that you start, and that's predetermined. It's not based on qualifying; it's predetermined. And
So in the super sport, we have 75 entrants slots. Looks like there's some missing here. So
a little further forward is the.
bike.
So how would one get into this particular race? Is it an open, invitational, qualifying?
All the above.
All of the above?
It's an invitational, but you can apply for your invite, but you have to have proven yourself. They won't just let you turn up at the TT course and go into the first hedge that you see. You have to have had
65 and super.
Okay, you have to have had a decent level of experience. You can just road race, but there are qualifying events, and I believe you have to have, I think it's 6 signatures. It might be 3. I'll look that up, but you have to have signatures from well-regarded people who are organizers of events in order to allow you to even be entered into the hat. So everybody here is an accomplished rider, whether they are a privateer rider and do a regular day job for a living and running their own machinery, to the fully fledged professional racers with professional factory machinery.
So, and there's one in the super sport class this year. It's his first time here. It's Renny Skatesbrook, and he's actually, I believe he's still living here in the U.S., but he's a contributor for Cycle News, so a journalist who's done a lot of reviews, race coverage for writing and stuff, like columnist, basically.
Yeah.
And but he's always been into racing and those things, kind of at an amateur level. His father actually raced the TT, I believe, twice many years ago, so he has some history in that. But he's in the past few years had been running the Pikes Peak motorcycle event in the U.S. and Colorado before they canceled. So it was on the very last year of motorcycles being able to run there, he actually set the record for the event. So that getting him his credibility and some help from some people who are involved with the TT. Now this is at his next step at the bucket list, and he's on his super sport here, first time at the event at the Isle of Man. So no, he's not ridden the Isle of Man before. He hasn't done any of the qualifying, any of those sessions, because they have a different circuit at the Isle of Man. They run other races at during the year, but his pedigree, his other success so far has allowed him to get a chance to come out here, and they do scrutinize it. Of these guys, especially the newcomers, they get someone that knows the course. They go around the course in a car during the week, and they learn all the stops just in the middle of traffic. They're learning, this is what you need to do here, this is where you need to hit your brakes here, and all that. So that's one good example of a guy here that's first time. He's doing pretty well, especially for a first time out, but isn't a road racer like a lot of these other guys that have been doing it for years. They do the Northwest 200, the other Irish events. It's good to see that, because it'd be really cool if we could get a few more American riders to start getting involved in this and get the support.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of American riders, we've got 2 US representatives in the racing this year. We've got Chris Sabor, who's racing a Kawasaki in the 600. So he's in the Supersport TT. Obviously, that's not being run today, but he'll be running that. Well, I hope. I haven't kept up with his qualifying pace, or whether he's managed to get all the way through the qualifying week. There's obviously a lot of things that can go wrong and stand in the way of somebody from racing. But so Chris is going to be riding, and then there's Brandon Cretu, who's racing hopefully in this event. He's on a Honda CBR 1000, and he's actually racing for the Pens 13 team. So that's a reasonably good sponsor for some American talent. So for those that might be interested, Chris Sabor is running a number 68 in the super sport category, and Brandon Cretu is running 65 in this particular set of events on the 1000cc.
Very cool. Thank you, Donald. Billy. So Michael Dunlop. So he had made up some time, lost a second or so, but he's back on the gas again. He's within 8 seconds of Dean Harrison in second. Lap and a half to go. I don't know if he can do it.
I mean, he's 8 seconds behind.
9 now.
9.5.
Yeah.
9 at Glen Helen.
It's been fluctuating between 8 and 9 seconds. So I think this is probably where it's going to be unless Dean really has some issues towards the end of the race.
Well, Dean's a smaller guy than Michael Dunlop, I believe. And Michael Dunlop is a very strong fella. So as long as... So it's back down to 8 seconds at Ramsey Hairpin.
Dean just lost another 3 to Peter. So
maybe we're getting into some fuel management, maybe some tire management. I mean, there's a lap to go, so it's a little bit early for that stuff. But, you know, there's a potential for Michael to be able to catch Dean in terms of time, not on the road, but in terms of time.
But how about Peter Hickman? Just absolutely flying this morning.
Just,
setting the pace for the week, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to see anybody but him, in, you know, leading the 1000cc. Now the 600 is a completely different ball game. So Peter Hickman's a pretty tall fella. He's just an outstanding racer. I mean, the guy's got a mindset that's just different. From my, you know, experience and watching him and you know, hearing him talk. I mean, the guy's you know, more laid back than a deflated Lilo, to use a Dom Herbertson terminology. You know, he's just so relaxed, even when he's on the bike. But in the 600s, you know, you've got Michael Dunlop, who's been setting pace. You've got Lee Johnston, who, you know, Lee Johnston's a professional racer. He has a great YouTube channel in case anybody wants to get up on that. You know, Lee Johnston covers a lot of his own racing, you know, with his YouTube stuff. And I think he might even be second in the British Supersport Championship right now.
I'm not sure.
And he's going to be one to beat. I mean, Michael Dunlop is running his 600 extremely hot over the qualifying. And I think he's had the fastest lap over qualifying. But, you know, Lee Johnston he's you know, he's on his Ashcourt Aprilia. And it's just, I think that he's going to be the one to really watch in the 600 race.
I think also Davey Todd.
Davey Todd's, yeah, he's been running fast too. But in this 1000cc, it's going to be really difficult to look anywhere past Peter Hickman.
Yeah.
So how long? What's the duration of this entire event? How many races go into it?
So, well, he might answer a little bit more, but I mean, it's about 3 weeks total.
It's 2 weeks. Right. 2 weeks total.
But given some a room for delays of weather conditions and stuff like that. I think when we were there in 2019, I mean, the racing was almost a week behind, not a few days behind.
No. It was still run on exact. That's why they put all 3
they
main
lumped
races.
it together. That's right. We thought they were going to push it back.
Yeah.
They lumped it together. Yeah.
Because of course it's a massive disruption to the island.
Right.
So they say, you know, people book their vacation, and my great grandmother actually used to go over to the Isle of Man TT to watch the racing every year.
Really?
Yeah. And I'd unfortunately never been to the TT until I moved to the United States, and it cost me a load of money to get back. But you know, it's one of those things where it is on a real time crunch. They say this is when we're running it, and they can't really extend it past there. So, you know,
total of 5 classes.
I think there might be 6 races this year, though.
Superbike because of the senior. So 6.
So I think there's a superbike race today, and then there's what they call the senior, which is what is regarded as the most important race. But it's exactly the same bikes as these, and that'll be run next Saturday.
Okay. So back here next Saturday morning,
right?
Is what I'm hearing.
It's either next Saturday or next. No, I think it's next Friday actually. And then you've got the Super Sport race, and then you've got the Super Stock race. There might be 2 Super Stock races. Sport races, and then there's the sidecars. The sidecars are a different beast. There's 2 people on a sidecar, 3 wheels. I believe they're allowing 765 motors. I think Dave Molyneux's actually running. He's been pushing for that because they've been really struggling to get 600cc motors, because the super sport class has pretty much died on its ass when it comes to buying bikes for the road. Yamaha have stopped even producing the R6 outside of a racing capacity. So
over there,
so those guys, they run 600cc motors on three-wheeled machinery with two riders, and they're lapping in excess of 122 miles an hour. The Birchall brothers are absolutely dominating that class right now, have done for the past couple of years. But again, that's got its own history.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its own people who, Dave Molyneux's up there in probably 19 TT wins. I mean, on three-wheeled machinery with a passenger doing 122 mile an hour average lap around the TT and win
these
it
roads
that
are
many
already
times.
narrow, but now you've got two motorcycles essentially wide, if not a little wider, with two guys going at the same time on one machine.
So we've got a gap now of 40 seconds between Peter Hickman and Dean Harrison.
I mean, Peter has not slowed down at all.
No.
And Michael's still in that 8-second buffer.
That's the race to watch right now, right? The race for second at this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching.
It really is, yeah.
So here's our fastest lap, 133.4 average from Peter Hickman.
So the current lap record is 135 I think it's 35.7, and that was set in 2018 by Peter Hickman. So they're a couple of mile an hour down right now. The difference is in 2018, the weather was perfect. It was perfect for qualifying. It was perfect all week for the racing. It was warm, not hot, not ridiculously hot.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really get like that over there. But it was really warm, sunburn weather, especially for the pasty English folk and Irish folk. It was you need a lot of factor 50.
We have a question. Someone's asking, why did Irwin retire? I didn't catch why.
No idea.
Clearly mechanical, but I haven't heard if they've said anything about any assumption. Likely won't know until they get that bike back to the paddock.
Great observation. I'd not even noticed that. But shout out to Glenn Irwin. This is his first ever event in the TT, and he's a stalwart name in British Superbike Championship. Him and his entire family, actually, his brothers, have all been racing. They're all really super competitive, really nice, sort of bubbly, lively kind of, guys. Seriously hard to race against. Andrew Irwin's got a bit of a reputation for fairing bashing and being a somebody rough to race against. But Glenn, this is his first ever foray into TT racing. He ran the Northwest 200 for years. In fact, he won the Northwest 200 this year. He won one of the races, I believe, if not two. But he's never been to the TT because the TT is a different beast, and he's been going to the island and riding round what is the circuit since the event's been cancelled for coronavirus. And once he was able to go out there, he's been watching onboard lap after onboard lap and going out there, hire car, getting round the circuit, learning the circuit, because he'd made a commitment to go race. And I think the fastest ever lap by a newcomer, I believe, is 129 miles an hour, held by Peter Hickman. And it might be possible that Glenn Irwin, in his first ever event, of course, there's a long time to go yet, in terms of riding his 1000cc bikes, and of course he's got the super sport bike, but he might break that 129.
Yeah, I think
limit.
It's very possible. And we have the commenter James says, brilliant effort so far from Irwin as a newcomer to the TT, and absolutely. And I think you're right. It's every single time he's on track, he is still learning, but he's already shown incredible pace and speed. I think you're right. It's very possible he could break into the 130s this week, given the chance.
I've been really impressed with his riding on the circuit. He's taken a short circuit style to the TT. So he's been doing the doctor's dangle, where he dangles his leg as he breaks into a corner in order to balance himself and to act as a sort of air brake, which is a really short circuit style. It's developed by Valentino Rossi, who's the greatest motorcycle racer of all time. In my opinion, but also by a lot of records.
Pretty much
the guy's a
everyone's
monster.
opinion.
Not just your opinion.
Yeah.
There's like two people
Um,
that don't believe that, and that's Jorge Lorenzo and Casey Stoner. But
And Mark Marquez even.
I think Mark Marquez still thinks that Valentino's the best. I'm just gonna assume.
But he developed that technique, and then people have been using it in short circuit racing for the past couple of years. It's a really strange thing to see when somebody shifts their weight in a seat and then dangles their leg all the way off the machine in order to act as an air brake. And you don't see TT racers do it. I don't think I've ever seen TT racers do it. But Glenn Irwin immediately adapted that style and was breaking into some of these hard braking corners and dangling his leg and then flattening the bike out into the apex of the corner and absolutely driving it. So
and you're right, because it's as soon as he started doing that, it stood out, and you realize that we see that on closed course all the time, so we didn't even think about it. But seeing that here was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's just the riding style.
It looks like he's going to run on,
but no one's done that. You're right. It's
and what's impressed me the most, and I'm hoping that James has seen the same thing, is his attitude when he's off the bike. He's been getting toes from people in qualifying. He's been getting behind people like James Hillier. James Hillier passed him in one of the qualifying sessions, went past him on a high-speed section. Glenn Irwin got behind him, and Hillier actually tapped his seat unit to say, "Follow me." And he said, all of that is an education. All of that is like gold to somebody who's learning the circuit and learning to race. And his attitude when he's been off the bike is he's been positive, even if things haven't gone right. He hasn't chastised himself, self-flagellated. He hasn't beaten himself up about not being there, because he says that he has no target. He's there to learn. But I'll tell you what, if that's the guy's learning capacity, I'm really excited in the next couple of years once he gets his experience around here. I think he's going to be up there with Hickman, if not beating Hickman, because his attitude is right. His style is different, and he's clearly got, talent in buckets.
Yeah. And I think it's Hickman this week said that Irwin has a 130 in him. Talking about for this week.
I mean,
so
I'd love to see it.
Given the chance, we could see. But
Glenn Irwin's still showing in 8th.
Yeah,
I was about to say, still says 8th now.
So he might. Well, I mean, clearly he hasn't retired. I mean, if it's still showing him in 8th, I mean, he's got this has got to be on lap 6. Oh no, hang on, that's fastest laps.
Okay,
that's fastest laps.
You're right. There we go. It makes sense.
A Superbike all laps.
And thanks for bearing with us, everyone, here, because we are not experts. We're watching the stream. We can't even listen because of the headphones we have on, or at least I got on.
It's just indiscriminate talking that we're picking up on.
So no, this has been a good race, good time.
Oh shit! Yeah, we're in lap 6.
Yeah.
So this is it.
This is it, and we're already at Black Bridge. So halfway through the lap.
James adds 100% agree that he will be up there.
Yeah, thanks. And James, thanks for tuning in with us, man. Really appreciate that. Hoping we can do this more in the future. This time delay for us is thankfully it wasn't 2-3 a.m. But 6 a.m. start's not too bad on a Saturday for some motorcycle racing. And thank you for tuning in.
Trying to find live timing so that I can get a.
Yeah, that was going to be my question of how far is this stream behind what's actually live?
Not much. I mean, probably. I would assume. I'm only assuming there's a couple seconds delay from a liability perspective of catching an accident. Just like any live event, they typically have a few second delay anywhere, just in case.
I'm trying to see if TSL is running the timing.
Yeah, but this should be very close to the true time.
So now we are in the final lap of this. We concluded a while ago. Peter Hickman probably going to come away as the winner of this. That second place race, what we were talking about, the focus. How do we feel about it now that we're going into the backstretch?
We're too far gone. Michael's been losing time to Dean ahead, so I think he's settled into third. I don't think he realizes he's settled into third, but it looks like his pace has settled. Let's just finish the race out. Podium spot for the first race of the week. You can't be mad about that at all, especially against this competition. And it's something we didn't even talk about is that Michael Dunlop was set to be on a completely different machine for this event. And it was very highly anticipated because it was a so Irwin's still out. So yeah, we have
So Irwin's still running.
yeah. So yeah, Glenn's still going. I'm not sure who we saw, but unless that was Conor Cummins that we saw up on the side that was talking on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, James is working and listening to us. Man, thanks, James, for tuning in. So, Michael Dunlop is in third. He's 12 seconds off Dean Harrison in second. We're about to finish lap 6 here momentarily. So, it looks like it's going to be a solid third place finish for Michael to start the week. So, not bad. I know he definitely wants to be up there. And I think Super Sport, like Billy was mentioning earlier, is where he's going to really shine this week.
Yeah, Michael was gonna race on a Ducati.
Yeah.
I think it was a V2 Panigale, was it? He was gonna race the same one that's operating in the Moto
Moto
America.
America, yeah. So,
he just couldn't get sorted with it. The team. I think the team kind of messed him around, or he felt like the team messed him around.
From what I've heard and read, the hearsay is there was disagreement between team owner and Michael.
Yeah, and it was like they're going to do this, and then it never came, and then they're going to do this, it never came, and then of course to go through that, and then the Dunlop fiasco.
Yeah,
with
the
his
tire
tires
blowing out. Yeah,
so now he's on a Suzuki with Metzelers.
Yeah, everything he had planned completely changed,
and he's in third.
Yeah,
yeah, it's. I mean, this has been a hell of an event because it's been. I mean, technically 3 years in the making. It was 2 events which were cancelled, but technically 3 years in the making. And
look at that bounce off of Hickman.
Insane. And the first day they were lapping, right up at 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, like they never skipped a beat at all.
Yeah, never even. I mean, it took a little bit of time for the grip to come back. I noticed that a lot of people were talking about diminished grip. With some of the rains that they had overnight, was running the rubber away, but it was as though they never even stopped.
Yeah.
And it's just been so impressive to see. Peter Hickman showing off a little bit now.
Yeah.
He's
he was doing that halfway through the lap earlier, so I think he knows he's got this in the bag. And
so he's in Ramsey hairpin right now. 1 minute. Sorry, an hour and 37 minutes.
Yeah,
I'd like to see what his lap times are. They keep putting up the total time of the race.
Yeah, and that's sorry, we're getting some of that. Anyone listening, we're getting some of our information mixed up on who's retired, who's still in, because they're changing up the statistics on the side here on us, was showing current lap, fastest lap, and qualifying at one point they had on there. So Glenn Irwin is still out, can't confirm.
It's how he should have been in an orange bib.
So it's got orange leathers.
So he's got orange leathers because he needs his sponsorship still because he's a factory rider.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another thing, Stoney, that as a first timer on the track, you wear an orange vest over your leathers so that people are aware that this person, it's their first time out here, first week at the course, just kind of to signify like that. It's a newbie.
Be careful.
Be careful. Yeah.
Be careful.
So in his case, Glenn Irwin's case, is that he has essentially on his leathers a big orange section that looks like a vest, so that they can still have the sponsorship stitched on there instead of covered up by another orange vest.
Sure.
Still get paid.
Now I'm going to have to try and
eighth.
I'm going to have to try and figure this out, but I might be mistaken. But I get the impression that Glenn Irwin may be the first rookie to race a factory machine at the TT.
Yeah. Yeah, and James on Facebook says last race at Northwest was disappointing due to the tire issue and riders having to pull out. Surely Dunlop will have to compensate then. Yeah, and I'm not sure how that worked out because that's something we didn't mention. That you're right. I forgot they actually weren't able to race the final event. Several Hickman, Dunlop, a few other guys had to sit out, and that's a pretty big deal. So I'm not sure if there's anything that kind of was worked out to compensate or any sort of future negotiation to help with that. But that's a good point, James.
We're just watching James Hillier coming up to
and
the
that
Ramsey
machine
hairpin.
sounds so great. I wish there were more ones out there, but goodness, it sounds
And
like a beautiful bike
it
around that
looks-
course.
It
yeah,
looks
it
amazing.
looks good.
But yeah, so Peter Hickman's now running up through the mountain. He's right out to the bungalow now and past. So he's on his way to finishing. I would imagine that his bike's probably running quite lean right now.
Yeah.
If he's
Well,
managing,
he backed off the pace this lap
He
for
has,
sure.
yeah.
He has been doing a few extra wheelies.
Yeah.
Who knows?
skids and wheelies.
We'll
That's
see.
what he says he does for a living. If someone asks him what he
Yeah.
does for a living, he says skids and wheelies.
Skids and wheelies. Yeah, Michael Dunlop has definitely dropped the pace as well. He may have he either is settling in or may have had a moment or two because he's lost almost 10 seconds just in this lap alone to Dean Harrison in second. So, but I mean, it's it's lap 6. Probably was aware he was in third at that last pit stop. Given the time behind, he's very safe from 4th place. So, finish out the podium on the first race. It's going to be a good day. It's a nice undershot of the helicopter there.
And another one.
Oh,
Tell you what a day that looks
yeah,
like in
look
the
at
Isle of
that.
Man.
Look at that, Stoney. It's just
So-
beautiful.
So beautiful. Blue skies.
I would camp there, 100%
Oh
camp
yeah,
there.
yeah. We should.
Next year.
So, bros,
Let's do it.
How difficult do you think it would be to obtain like press passes for something like
probably
this?
going to be tricky, but the more we do this, hopefully this helps. We have this on record. And we got another question from James.
Oh, yeah.
And this might be for Billy over here. What's your opinions on the Ulster not running this year? And do you think that's the end of it? Ooh, that's a good question. What's your favorite Irish road race? 2 questions.
I mean, the Northwest 200 is pretty hard to beat. I mean, Cookstown's fun.
Yeah.
Cookstown is the first time I ever actually saw Paul Jordan race was watching him at Cookstown, and yeah, that guy on a 600 machine around that circuit is fantastic to watch. I think that the diamond races were a really good idea for the Isle of Wight, but they seem to have canned that, and it
I was
looks like
going to
the
ask
Ulster.
if there's any news on
No,
that.
no, there's been
Man.
they've not moved on it at all. I think they had some trouble with getting permission from the locals, and then the Ulster Grand Prix. I don't think that's run for a couple of years, and I know Oliver's Mount hasn't run for a couple of years. I think that the Ulster might be done.
And that was James' question: is
Yeah.
do you think that's the end of it? And you very well might be right. And now if the Isle of Man, depending on how this week goes, there very well could be some push within the community to get those things up and running again.
Well, the thing with the Ulster is that they charge an entrance fee, right? And so it's always been a justification.
Here we go.
I believe
Peter
that's
Hickman.
correct.
Peter Hickman crossing the finish line in first place.
Superb. I mean, that's outstanding. We're entering the winners' circle now with those guys. But yeah, I think the Ulster charges an entrance fee. I think the Ulster's been a lot to do with money. And you never know with live footage working as well as it is right now. I mean, this stream's been relatively uninterrupted.
This has been amazing.
People are paying $25 or £20 for access to this, and that's international. There's no regional restrictions. So you never know. If they start doing that for things like the Ulster, then you might be able to see it come back.
Yeah. And James has chimed in. So it hasn't run due to COVID now this year. And is due to lack of funding and aggro from the locals on, you say.
So it's official. It's official at this point.
Yeah. Peter Hickman, race 1 winner. And here comes Burnout. Dean Harrison second.
Michael blow your machine up.
Michael Dunlop finishes third. That was a very good, clean event.
Michael looks a little subdued. He looks quite tired. I mean, he's not exactly the most, well, I guess not expressive is the wrong word, but he's not exactly the most excitable character. He's got a job to do.
To me, that looks like he's I wouldn't say frustrated, but not satisfied.
Right.
Super Sport, he may just come out absolutely swinging.
I mean, he swings anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying this may have been starting out on the big bike and then hitting the course on that smaller bike. It's probably really going to be an advantage for him.
James wants to know, have you been to any Irish races?
I never had the opportunity to.
We've only been to the Isle of Man. We were looking to do the Isle of Wight if they were going to do that, but it looks like that may never happen. Hopefully, at some point it could, because that sounded like a really fun time.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do some of the Irish road racing.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity to see. I'm forgetting the circuit name, but there's one where it's basically all single track roads.
Yeah, Dunlop's actually looking sore.
He's looking really tired.
Yeah, he was grimacing a little bit before he put his face down there.
Hickey looks like he's not even ridden a bike.
Yeah, he's got 6 more laps in him.
Yeah, easy. But yeah, I'd love to see any and all road racing.
Yeah. I think the Northwest would be a really fun one to do, and we do have a little bit more American involvement in that one as also.
James, I presume from some of the terminology that I believe that you've written, you might be over that side of the pond. If so, have you ever been to any of the Irish road races? And if so, which one would you recommend going to? Because I think that's an important piece of advice, especially when you're traveling from this side of the water.
Okay, James says the stream cut out and he didn't hear our answer. So just in case you didn't catch back on there, we
had a connection issue there for a minute. We were getting a weak connection.
Sorry about that, James. We've only been to the Isle of Man personally. We'd love to get over to at least one other Irish event. Have you been, James? And if so, what would you recommend we go do?
While we give James a second to answer that, no free ads, of course. But I do want to shout out the Gorilla duct tape that you guys brought with you. Almost 2 hours on a live broadcast, the flag being held up by duct tape, and with the cat pawing at it.
Only one incident with the vicious predator
trying to pull it down. It's still held. And just now we lost the second T-shirt that were literally just duct taped to the stair rail there. So shout out to Gorilla brand duct tape.
So that's it. I mean, that's the first time Gas Monkey has ever sponsored, in my knowledge anyway, Gas Monkey has ever sponsored a road racing machine, and it's on the top.
Yeah.
That's incredible sponsorship.
Yeah.
So here's one thing I did want to get across, actually, and I forgot to mention it. A lot of these riders are not professionals. A lot of these teams are not professional teams. They are outfits that are put together by specific teams, but all of the sponsorship is direct towards road racing. So it's unique sponsorship. A lot of riders run the opportunity for people to sponsor them with even small amounts of money. And you tend to just get a sticker with your name on like they use a sticker machine and then just put it onto the bike. So in 2019, Sabor's network was actually on a couple of different road racing machines. The Manx TT. So the Manx race had a rider called Ray Maloney, who we did an article on.
Which is still available on sobrosnetwork.com.
And so, the Sobros brand was actually on that machine.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, so that's a good opportunity for road racing in years to come. If anybody wants to, send a couple of pounds or euros or dollars someone's way, you might get your name on the machine, and you never know how the machine might run. You never know how the rider might go, and you might see your name on the top step. You never know.
All right, boys, any parting shots? Do we want to get out of here? Do we want to stick around for anything else?
No, I think I can't hear the interview. So I mean,
at this point, this is just we're catching up with the racers and getting our interviews in. So
so I appreciate anyone that's joined in. This is a good little test run for us and Isle of Man's streaming service. So far, it's been flawless. It's been really fun.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to to talk about something that I particularly love, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the races.
Listen, I'll tell you, it would not have been as good of a show without producer Billy, because
Billy, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I'm a lot of this I'm lost on, so
One
Appreciate you
one
guys.
last question.
Oh, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
How has it been as a newcomer to the TT? How has it been?
I think it's very. I mean, this is a very consumable product. I think this is something that a lot of people. I mean, racing has such a big footprint here in the States that this just feels like a natural kind of fit in that grand pantheon of racing culture. So for me, just barely being exposed to the sport, actually sitting down and watching a race is natural, easy. And like I told you guys earlier, there's something about this, like the danger, the beauty in it. It's just very pure, very passionate. And I think that's something that can resonate within someone, regardless of your level of expertise with the sport.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. Oh, we did get an answer from James.
James is actually from Belfast. He's been to Ulster, Northwest, Cookstown, Armoy every year for the last 10 or so. I would recommend the Northwest for the atmosphere and the location. Best place to be would be the exit of Station Corner, though, as they come through near 200 miles per hour. Armory is another race I would recommend. And it's got a load of history. Sorry, I'm reading at an angle here. Yeah, thanks for that, James. Really appreciate that. And I think Northwest would definitely be one that we would want to hit.
Yeah, I mean,
It'd be really fun.
the triangle, man.
Yeah.
Over 206 mile an hour, I think that they hit this year. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
James, thank you for watching along
thanks,
with us.
man.
Our little trial run here of a race watch along live on our Sobros Network social media accounts, which is a reminder that you can follow us on all major social media platforms at Sobros Network. Producer Billy, any parting shots before we get on out of here today?
No, just thank you so much. It's been a fantastic race. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the races, and thanks for all the participation as well. So appreciate it.
Ryan, parting thoughts?
No, it's a good race. I'm glad that this went over very smoothly. We were able to watch the full race. Their streaming service did well. The weather was beautiful. We had no delays. This was a really fun morning. Thanks for having us.
Of course, happy to do it. I am at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. You can check out all of our work at sobrosnetwork.com, all of our merch at sobrosshop.com, and you can check out premium Sobros Network content on Patreon. For $5 a month, gain access to an exhaustive content library featuring over 300 items of premium content. We're talking podcasts, videos, articles alike. We cover a lot of things besides racing. There's a wealth of content there, the Sobros Network banner. So for producer Billy, for Ryan Yearwood, I am Stoney Keeley, and until next time, you stay classy, race fans.
Thanks, everybody.